Hello, everybody, and welcome to Web and Beyond Live for January 18th, 2021. I'm Ray Sidney Smith, President of W3 Consulting and Managing Director of W3C Web Services, which provides affordable web and WordPress hosting, domain name registration, and other web-related services to small business. Web and Beyond Live is a chance for me to discuss with you topical and timely issues relating to digital marketing, cybersecurity, and other information and communication technology infrastructure, and productivity technologies relating to business process implementation, automation, and improvement each week. All the things I believe you need to be successful marketing and managing on the web and beyond today as a business. So feel free to ask questions if you're in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer them. If you're watching the replay, feel free to leave a question in the comments, and we'll do our best to answer you. Today, my agenda is to cover our small business digital marketing news, and then I want to talk about what's up with WhatsApp. We'll do some quick announcements and close out. And so just want to run through the stories this week briefly. We're going to talk about Breaker. If you don't know what Breaker is, there's some news around Apple. Alignable has a contest for you. WordPress has a new annual theme out, and just a quick commentary on an article about Walmart and how it pivot in e-commerce. And I wanted to kind of talk about those pieces with you because I think they can be useful in just kind of thinking through how this process works. So let's start with, of course, the story about Breaker. And so if you don't know what Breaker is, it's a social podcasting app. And in essence, it allowed you to be able to not just as a consumer go ahead and you utilize the tool to listen to podcasts. It also has a functionality for being able to listen to publish podcasts, and they were purchased by Twitter. Obviously, Twitter is trying to make a move in the social audio space, and actually, I'm going to dedicate a whole episode to that in the next couple of weeks. And so Breaker was going to shut down the applications, and now they have decided that Maple Media out of Los Angeles is going to take over the portfolio of their mobile applications, and so the app is not going to go away. Now, the importance of that is that there were podcasters out there who were hosting their podcasts on Breaker, and so it was a very important component here. This is a cautionary tale number one in this episode, which is to say that infrastructure should not be there's kind of good infrastructure that's free and there's bad infrastructure that's free. Social media platforms by their nature at the present moment, and that could change over time, are generally free. There are platforms out there like MeWe that is now charging to basically have a MeWe page for a business, and I think it's $2 a month or something like that, very nominal, but that allows them to kind of cut away the chaff from the wheat in terms of those businesses. And of course, it's a sustainable business model instead of someday shutting down because they're not capable of supporting the infrastructure. So this is really, I think, great for the folks who are on Breaker. I still think this sends a bad message, which is that the reality is that if you're not paying for that infrastructure, it's getting paid for some other way. And that means that you need to be mindful of the fact that at any given time, they can pull the rug from out under you. You should be hosting your own website, and you should be hosting your own podcast media. And, to some extent, we need to think about this from the perspective of where are you hosting things in terms of video, where are you hosting other parts of your business, and this infrastructure is important, so just be mindful of it. Next up is that Apple is preparing to settle with a company that, as you can see on screen here, their logo was a pear, and they're a little company, a meal planning company called Super Healthy Kids, and they launched an app, or they filed a design patent for a logo for its app Prepare, funny name, and Apple, of course, sued them, saying that their logo in their trademark application was too close to the Apple logo. And so they went ahead and did that. The owners went ahead and filed a change.org petition, and they had nearly 250,000 people digitally sign that petition, basically saying to Apple, hey, back off. And now it looks like they are going to be going through a settlement process to be able to solve this. Now, the reality here is that From my perspective, this is just sad all around. It's bad for Apple. It's bad for the small business. It's bad for the market. And what this tells us is that, one, we have to be mindful of the fact that big companies have big dollars and therefore can bury some of us in litigation like this. That's an unfortunate nature of the current economic circumstance. But more importantly is that you need to really do your research before you start going out there and attempting to assert IP rights, especially when it comes to logos or other kinds of intellectual property, that's going to be visible by these bigger companies. So just be careful. Don't step too far outside of too far into the space of other folks. Don't try and create a logo that looks like Apple. Don't create a logo that looks like Disney. They're pretty aggressive with regard to protecting their intellectual property rights, and that can be very detrimental to the business if you aren't. So be careful about your IP rights. Next up, just continuing on in the Apple news is, and unfortunately, and then I'm going to move on to more positive news, I promise, but Apple is temporarily closing more stores because of COVID-19. These are retail locations that are located in Georgia, North Carolina, and Texas, because these are obviously hot zones right now that they feel it's safer if they were to close them. There are about 20 of these locations throughout those 3 states. We can see more of these increasing closures, and this just reminds you and reminds me, all of us, that as the COVID-19 pandemic kind of roils through the country and hopefully more and more people get vaccinated, that means that we'll have greater protections, continuing to wear masks and so on and so forth. It's really incumbent upon us as business owners to make sure our staff and employees are masking up, they're following the right precautions associated with the CDC guidelines and the requisite requirements from local authorities, because when they leave the business, you don't particularly have control over them, but you should really still be encouraging them to follow all of these guidelines, because they're going back and forth between family and friends and so on and so forth, and more communication of that disease is going to ultimately impact your business. I'm seeing it across the board. Businesses that are having to reduce hours, or they're having to pull in more staff at higher rates because they cannot keep the stores manned, occupied with employees, because they're having people who are impacted by coronavirus. So be very, very careful. We're going to be in this for a while, and we need to be prepared for that. But that also means we can do things. We have the ability to control this if we step up and really encourage our people, including ourselves, not to get lax. We've been doing this for a long time now. I get it, but we can really step up and do better. Next up, I just wanted to point out a quick note. There is the 2021 Local Business Person of the Year contest going on. This is Alignable. Alignable is a small business social media platform, and they've done a really good job of kind of being that LinkedIn competitor for specifically small business owners. And they are hosting this contest, and the Local Business of the Year contest. If you want to join the contest, click the link in either the video description or wherever you're finding it. But you could just go to Alignable, and I'm sure you can find it at alignable.com once you're logged in. But you can go ahead and I guess nominate yourself, and then go ahead and let your folks know to vote for you. And they have different categories across the various localities, and so really just a good opportunity to get some publicity for the business on the platform. Okay, next up is WordPress has announced their 2021 WordPress theme. And so if you have a WordPress website and you have a theme, there's nothing that you need to do. But I always actually recommend that businesses get rid of older themes. So if you're running 2016 as your backup theme, so you should have really 1, 2, or 3 themes in your WordPress installation. The primary theme is the one that's activated for your business, the one that people see. Behind that may be a parent theme, as they call it, and that your theme that's showing is a child theme. In essence, it's taking some of the parts of the parent theme, or all the parts of the parent theme, and then the child theme is modifying those parts to what people see. So you might have a parent and a child theme, those two. You may just have one, but you sometimes have 1 or 2 themes that are active for purposes of your active site. But you should have one additional backup, which is probably a good idea to use one of the WordPress base themes, one of these yearly themes. Now, if you're running 2016, 2017, something like that, you can just use 2021 as your backup theme and delete all of the other ones. You don't need the other ones around. It's just extra weight on your WordPress installation and also just an additional security risk. So get rid of all the other ones. And what's beautiful about 2021 is that it takes full advantage of the block editor. And so they have all of these block patterns that you're now capable of using both on the back end and I believe on the front end of this. And it's just a beautiful theme. I mean, it's very nicely done and you get all of these wonderful block patterns and it really uses and utilizes the block editor. So if you're thinking about launching a brand new website, you might consider the 2021 theme. It's free and you can download it directly from themes within your WordPress installation. But I just thought you'd all like to know that the 2021 theme is out there. Okay, next up is I wanted to just bring and highlight some attention to Walmart's e-commerce business and this article, and I highly recommend checking it out. The article is called Walmart's e-commerce chief Mark Lore to leave after jump-starting the retailer's digital business. Mark Lore started Jet.com, and prior to that, I think whatever the company was that became Diapers.com, and so he had this deep experience in digital business, and he joined Walmart in 2016 when they acquired Jet, and he has been really instrumental in bringing their e-commerce experience up to par with other businesses like Amazon and so on and so forth and Target. So the reality for me is that when you think about what they're doing, they talk in here about how Lore saw the change and how the change worked, and it's well worth reading how he looked at the profitability when it came to going digital, how they mapped out their overarching goals as it related to it, and it's just a quick read, but it actually is very, very useful to kind of get a picture that even Walmart was kind of sagging and dragging when it came to e-commerce, and they made a strong push to get up to par, and so should you. I mean, this is just that reminder that we all can do better in e-commerce, and we're all doing e-commerce in some way, shape, or form, and we should be taking payments online. We should be learning how to take payments online. No matter whether you're a product or service business, you need to be figuring those components out because there is an e-commerce connection there, even if it's just on the marketing and initial or the pre-sales part of your business. You can be taking deposits online. These things speed up your business's traction, and it also increases your opportunities for people to be able to find you and hire you. So just really important for us to take this all into account. Okay, so that brings me to my thoughts on WhatsApp. WhatsApp is kind of how I've been thinking about this, and really in line with the fact that WhatsApp is in competition. It's a Facebook-owned messaging app, and it is in competition with all the other messaging apps that are out there, including Telegram and Signal and Facebook Messenger and Instagram Messenger, or Instagram with its direct messaging components, and so on and so forth. And so Facebook owns this, and so it's competing with two of its own other products. And Facebook has been in the process of going ahead and, in essence, consolidating and centralizing its data related to all of its messaging applications. And of course, this has caused some new problems. One is that WhatsApp needed to modify its privacy policy to let users know that they were going to be sharing data with Facebook. And of course, that ruffled a lot of feathers. The point is that it's not going to be sharing the messages directly with Facebook, at least yet. What they're really doing is they're sharing some of the metadata around the messages. So maybe the user's name, location, other kinds of data like that around the message, not the messages themselves. And of course, this caused a whole bunch of stir in the media, and as you can see from this particular article, WhatsApp now forces you to share data with Facebook, and so the reality is that in order to use the service, you have to abide by the privacy policy and the terms of use, and otherwise you can leave the service. And this has caused a lot of problems. Worst of all is that people are flocking to other platforms. And so that led a lot of experts to go out there and say, hey, you should run to some of these other platforms. And I kind of chuckle at this because I've been a Signal user for quite some time, and nobody I know, minus a few friends and business colleagues, use Signal. And so it was a real struggle to get people to use Signal. I'm actually a bigger fan of Telegram, and so I use Telegram as my primary messaging app with all of my business associates and even some friends. And the reality, though, is that these experts are telling everybody to flock to Signal. Well, it crashed Signal, and Signal was really having some trouble keeping up with the new onslaught of new people joining the platform. One because of WhatsApp, the other because of various social networks last week being shut down because of the incident at the Capitol building, and so there's all kinds of things roiling in the background that have caused Signal to kind of get overloaded. And now Telegram, with nearly 400 million users, I imagine they've hit 500,000 users or more since this particular incident has happened. And WhatsApp now is stepping back and saying, "Oh, don't worry, we're gonna roll back our privacy policy and allow you to be able to go ahead and keep your data separate from Facebook in this sense." So my statement on it really comes down to this, which is that your messaging apps are only as secure as the devices you're using them on. And so there's clearly an argument to say that your messages should be secure and you should make sure that your messages are secure and so on and so forth. But the reality factor is that we really should not be thinking about this from one limited perspective. We should be thinking holistically about all of the various ways in which our businesses are interacting with customers. Our customers are on WhatsApp, and so therefore, if you have customers on WhatsApp, you need to be on WhatsApp, and that really forces our hand in some ways to do that, lest we have a lower customer support or lower customer experience. At the same time, we need to balance out our own personal security and the business's security in line with that. And so there are many ways in which law enforcement can get into the smartphones that host our messaging apps, and that also means that hackers and criminals can. I don't like to use the word hackers because they're good hackers. I'll say, cyber criminals. Those cyber criminals are capable of attacking your systems. So don't have this. I hesitate for everybody to say, oh well, I'm just going to get rid of WhatsApp and that's going to allow me to be safer. That's not. Reality factor is that the security of your systems across the board is the security of your business. And if you have one particular chain in that linkage that's weak, then that's going to allow somebody in. So yes, is WhatsApp going to centralize business within Facebook, and is that going to be bad for consumers? Potentially. I mean, that's a subjective statement. Is that going to be bad for business? Probably not. I think it's actually going to probably be good for business owners to be able to centralize their data within the Facebook Business Suite, which is presumably where Facebook is going to go ahead and put those messages so that we can centralize Facebook messages, Instagram direct messages, and WhatsApp messages all into one seamless space. So I don't really think we should be so concerned at the present moment. It's a big story in that sense. I do think that we should also be thinking about how we are personally communicating. If you are personally communicating, trade secrets and internal business communications and so on and so forth, you should be doing that in a secure app like Signal. But I don't think many clients or customers are going to be all that concerned about communicating with you unless there's a very good reason for them to want that security, say in a legal relationship, but attorney-client privilege type relationship or otherwise, or medical or healthcare type data. You're not going to be really concerned about having those conversations using the tools that they use every day. So I just wanted to point that out to everybody, that I think a lot of the conversation is being misunderstood, that somehow the policy is security. The policy is not security. Security is security, and having good code is important, and making sure that across the board you have all of your systems secure. Robin from Startup to Growth is asking about podcasting. So I was talking about Breaker earlier. Hi, Robin. And so she's asking, where should small businesses host their podcasts so they have more control over them? I'm a big fan of Blubrry. There's probably a link somewhere on my site that links to Blubrry, and we're affiliates of Blubrry, so we get a little commission if folks host with Blubrry, but it just happens to be my favorite podcast hosting platform. But there are others. There's Libsyn, which is another great podcast hosting site. There are many other podcast hosts that are really quite good. They're what's the other one that comes up a lot? Buzzsprout is another one, but really a paid plan means that you have a right to go to those podcast hosts and expect uptime, support, all of those things that you don't get with Anchor or Breaker or these others. So I really highly recommend that folks utilize the tools. I think if you go to web.w3cinc.com and go under recommendations, podcast hosting is probably under there. So if you click on that, it'll take you over to the Blueberry hosting site, and they really provide a lot of really great service for the amount you're paying to them. And they provide the PowerPress plugin. Blueberry provides the PowerPress plugin in WordPress, so you get both the connection to WordPress, where you get a direct integration with your Blueberry account, as well as the hosting and so on and so forth. So it's just, I think, a really good deal, and they provide really great support. And I really just like being able to send them an email and getting support back from the folks there at Blueberry are always quite good. Okay, with that, just have a couple of announcements, and then we're going to wrap up today's Web and Beyond Live. First and foremost, in early February, I'll be highlighting our 12 days of small business participants. These are the 15 or so business owners that I highlighted each day in the early part of January, and just as an opportunity to let everybody know that they have an opportunity to be able to highlight small businesses just like we did. We're just doing it for the point of making supporting small business to be something on your New Year's resolutions, New Year's goals checklist, and it's very easy to do. There are many things that we can do in order to support small business, and I will be, having the 12 days of small business participants incorporate some of their ideas in terms of how to help them and therefore help other small businesses in your local communities. So you can look out for that as well. In that same episode, I'll be talking about Google Web Stories. I've been working in the background on a couple of Google Web Stories and seeing how they work and that kind of thing, and I'd like to kind of report back to you in terms of that. Next up, I will be announcing the Small Business Virtual Roundtable for next month in February in the coming days. Had a little bit of delay in getting those out just because I've had quite an overload in terms of new work coming in the door, which is all good. No complaints there. Our next Web and Beyond webinar is this Thursday, and I'll be talking about all the podcast marketing changes and how that'll affect marketing and small business. And so something for you to look at w3cinc.com/events. So if you go to w3cinc.com/events, you can find all of our upcoming events, including the roundtables and all the other pieces as well. If you are not already a member, we have a digital community that we've launched and are growing. And if you go to www.webandbeyond.community, you can actually find all of the events we're hosting with links to all of them in Web and Beyond community. So it's kind of a centralization of those pieces. I'm really looking forward to some of the big announcements we have this year in Web and Beyond community. And so feel free to join us there. Just fill out the sign up form, create an account, and then I will approve you into the community so that you can partake. With that, we have reached the end of our time together this week. If you've enjoyed the live stream, feel free to click the thumbs up icon. As I understand it, that helps us make new small business friends, and so thank you for helping us do that. If you have a question, as I noted earlier, leave a comment. You can also tweet or message me at W3 Consulting on Twitter. I'm always happy to answer on Twitter. Join us every Monday, typically here at 11 a.m. Eastern, although we will have some changes in the schedule. I keep saying it, just kind of prepping people for the fact that we might have some modified times in the coming weeks so we can test whether or not one time is better or another. Thank you so much for spending this Web and Beyond Live with me. I'm Ray Sidney Smith on behalf of W3 Consulting and our subsidiary, W3C Web Services. Have a great week ahead, marketing and managing your small business on the Web and Beyond.